that my job?
It's your job, Peter.
Okay, very good. Good morning, everybody. We've gathered here today to listen to the interim dean, Professor David Hagan, present his vision for what he believes Creel will look like and go towards if he is selected as the dean. So at this point, let's turn the floor over to the interim dean, Professor Dave Hagan.
Okay, well, thank you, Peter. I'm sure you're getting tired of introducing me by now, but you're almost done. So thanks everyone for coming to this. I'm going to share my screen. I was just mentioning earlier, it's a lot easier to give a technical talk than a vision talk. Let me just see if I can share. Always takes a little bit of time. Okay, so you can see that okay?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to move my camera so I'm actually looking at you while I'm looking at my screen. So I want to basically talk a little bit about where is Creel now. I mean, I know a lot of the faculty are already aware of that, but not everyone here in the meeting is intimately aware of Creel. So I thought I'd just give a summary of where I think Creel is now. I didn't think it's hard to have an exact vision, but just think of, well, what ideas might we have about where Creel might be 10 years from now? And if we can agree on what that is, the question is, how do we get there? So I'd be very happy during this talk for people to interject and give comments and suggestions. But I thought actually I'd start off before doing this just by saying a little bit about myself. Never really done this before, except when I was on the board of the Optical Society, everybody on the board at some point was required to give a sort of brief presentation about themselves, just so we get to know each other. So I put that together and I thought, well, I may as well not waste it. So I'll do that now and see if it works. Okay, did that work?
Yep.
So this I hadn't really changed it. This is the slides I gave for the board, but just to give you a little bit of history, my professional history is actually fairly short. I studied at Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh, Scotland. After I completed my PhD, I moved to the Center for Applied Quantum Electronics at North Texas State University, quite close to Dallas. And then in 1987, after 2 years as a postdoc, I joined Creel. Became associate dean in 2001, and that's pretty much my professional history. So next I'm going to show you a little bit about my earlier history, just to give you an idea of where I came from. So I actually grew up in a very, very small town called Duns in Berkshire, Scotland, population 2,000. So it's quite different from Orlando. This is the house I grew up in. This is my parents getting married. This is actually me as a kid. I was actually a huge kid for some reason. Fortunately, I slimmed down a little bit. This is my mother and my sister. It's just a picture of the town, give you an idea of the sort of place I was from. Where things really started in science for me is at the Berkshire High School. And that's a picture of the high school now. I think it's a different building now, but that's how it looked when I went there. And I had very good teachers there. And these were very strong influencers for me. I was able to fortunately find a picture of my two physics teachers, Brian Taylor and John Williams. And they were really instrumental in getting me to be interested in physics. And I think it's important to recognize that because teachers, whether it's at high school or university, are extremely important in developing someone's career. And the way they did it was every single class was filled with hands-on experiments, sometimes demonstrations, and they really loved what they did. And they made physics very exciting for me. So not surprisingly, I decided to study physics. And I went to Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh. They actually had a very strong lasers and nonlinear optics group. I actually served as the president of the Student Association during my time there and was actually editor of the student newspaper as well. But I also decided to stay to do my PhD there. I actually had a choice of going to Oxford or staying at Heriot-Watt. And I elected to stay at Heriot-Watt because the research was going on was extremely good. Hugh Mackenzie was my advisor. He was a great guy. He taught me a lot of things, but he also taught me how to have a sort of balanced life and to do well in your research, but also enjoy your life. Des Smith was the leader of the department, and he kind of taught me to dream big. Yeah, he certainly dreamed big. He actually thought he was going to win the Nobel Prize for his work, which is probably a bit unrealistic, but he was very driven, and it was exciting to work beside that group of people. So I went to North Texas to do a postdoc after that. Actually, I met Eric Van Stralen at Heriot-Watt because he was in sabbatical there, and I moved to North Texas, which is quite different from Scotland. And this was actually one of the best times of my life. And why? Well, I did research. I got to travel a lot. I didn't have to write proposals. I didn't have to write reports. And I didn't have to do any formal teaching. It was all research, and that was great. So actually, this is Eric and I a long time ago. Notice my shirt actually says University of Rochester for some reason. We were running a 5K somewhere in Texas. I used to sail and windsurf. I used to travel a lot. But that time came to an end, and I had to make a choice as to where to go. And I kind of had two choices for jobs. I knew Alan Huang at Bell Labs very well, and he was planning to build the first optical computer. So I had a choice of going there. Or the other option was I got an offer of a tenure track position at a brand new and then unknown optics center called Creel. And I got persuaded to come to Creel, and as you know, I've been here ever since. So Creel has been a great experience for me. I've been involved in building a research program, but also in building an institution. I see some pictures of sort of fun times from the past. This is the building that we started out on, the research pavilion. We grew there, and at that time, Creel was in multiple departments, but it was a center. So Creel provided the money, but I was tenure track in physics. So I did a lot of my work in physics. I taught in physics, but because there wasn't enough space for us in the university, we got moved off campus to the research part. And although some of the faculty were in physics, some chemistry, some electrical engineering, we were all growing together in one department. And the students were on all these different departments as well, but they were also growing together in a single space. And that's very important. And it's an important thing to realize that when you are all sharing a space together, you tend to grow as a unit. And Creel did grow as a unit, and eventually, as you know, became the school and a department. And throughout all this time, I really believe that photonics is a discipline, and we form degrees in optics and photonics at the master's and PhD level, and as you know, more recently at the bachelor's level. And these have been highly successful, I believe. A couple other influences there, of course, there's MJ Swallow. We had a long time collaboration with Olga Przonska, shown here. Unfortunately, she passed away a few years ago, but that was a very productive relationship as well. Just a few other things. We should do this again. The Creel students used to organize some sort of fun fair in Lake Claire, and they had a dunk tank, and they used to charge money so that you could dunk the faculty. So this is me in the dunk tank, and I remember that water was pretty cold. I like to travel. Here's some pictures of travel. This is from. I used to always go to the Nonlinear Optics conference in Hawaii. This is Nico Bloembergen, who we had a pretty close relationship with. He was the Nobel Prize winner for his work in nonlinear optics. That's Nico and others at my house. This was at the Creel 25th anniversary. I noticed that our 35th anniversary is pretty much upon us. So it's 10 years ago already. Finally, okay, this was for OSA. I won't really say too much more about it, but I have been very much involved in OSA, was founding editor-in-chief of Optical Materials Express. And my relationship with OSA is kind of mainly, particularly in publishing, mainly due to George Stegeman, who was an editor of Josephine and of course was our colleague at Creel for many years. He kind of got me involved in OSA publishing, and I did quite a lot in that field. And so I've been very fortunate to have had tremendous teachers and lifelong colleagues in my workplace, in my education, and through organizations like OSA and so on. So anyway, back to the vision. That's a little bit about myself. What about Creel? Where is Creel now? Well, talking about vision, we do have a vision statement. We have had it for a long time. We recently tweaked it a little bit, but nevertheless, the words "to be the world leader" and what comes after it changes a little bit, but our goal is to be a world leader in education, research, innovation, and partnership in the area of optics, lasers, and photonics. And if I'm talking about vision, and ultimately the dean can have a vision, but the faculty need to have a vision that's shared with the dean. And if we want to be the world's leader, we really need to think of, well, how are we going to become the world's leader? And we also need to believe if we are the world's leader, we should be capable of doing things that a world-leading organization would do. So our history, there's some people here, maybe, as I mentioned, Creel started as a center in 1987. The School of Optics was established in 1998, and the College of Optics and Photonics was founded in 2004. We've been involved in graduate education for many years. Undergraduate just started in 2014. So I'll move on from there. Some of you have seen this before, but just at a glance, we've got approximately 33 faculty, is a little bit out of date now. We've got quite a lot of joint faculty around campus, number of research scientists. We typically graduate about 20 PhDs per year, about 25 masters per year. That fluctuates a lot. And many of these masters are students who go on the way to PhDs. The master's programs are a little bit smaller than this would indicate. Right now, we're at 25 bachelor's degrees per year, but that's a growing number. We publish a lot. We do very, very well in patents. We do pretty well in funding. I'll talk a little bit about that later. And we have a strong industrial affiliates program. I'll talk about all of these things. What are our strengths? Well, we've got all sorts of strengths. Our primary strengths are our faculty. We have world-leading faculty in a broad range of photonics, and that's really what our strength is. It's in our human capital. But we have some very good facilities as well. The fiber optics fabrication facility. I'm mentioning TISTEF. TISTEF is actually now not in the college, but nevertheless, I can't talk about Creel and UCF without talking about TISTEF. It's a major resource. We have a strong optical materials lab. We have strong nanofabrication, integrated photonics fabrication. And IFAST is, of course, Zhenggu Chang's Attosecond Science and Technology Center. These are world-leading facilities in themselves. We're ranked fairly highly in AMO. We could probably do better there. We're now at a stage where we have alumni who are leaders in the photonics industry. That's important to me and to the college. And we have a very strong growing bachelor's degree in photonics, and pretty much anyone who wants a job in photonics can get one these days. So that's a growing program. Okay, now to the interesting part. And these are just my selections, and probably if I did this in a different day, I might give you some different things, but for the most part, they would be the same. Where could we be in a decade? And these are question marks at the end of these, because is this what we want to do? This is what I think we should do. Should we be the leading producer of bachelor's degrees in optics and photonics? Should we, through online programs, graduate a significant number, I don't know what that number would be, of master's graduates? So these would be in addition to the graduates that come through our face-to-face program. Should we have sufficient research funding so that faculty can support at least 5 PhDs per faculty and support their summer salaries? I'll see why I think that's important later. In 10 years, maybe we should not just be thinking about having a major research center of the ERC or MERSEC or STC type, but maybe we should be already on our second one by then. We need to do a lot of what we want to do. We need to have outstanding clean room and fabrication facilities. I think that's a given, but we need to get there. We need to grow our faculty, particularly in terms of underrepresented minorities and women. I put some numbers here. The most important thing is we could argue about what the number should be, and you'll never exactly match those numbers, but it's important that we should do a lot better in both of these aspects, and we need to be deliberate about trying to find a way to do that. I think we would be a lot happier if we had a large applicant pool for the PhD program. Right now, we recruit students from physics, from electrical engineering programs across the US and the world. And typically, those students don't know that optics programs exist. We need to do better in getting more people applying to our program. We've got a strong program, and not enough people know about it. We should, if we're going to be a world leader, we should not just do well in recruiting underrepresented students, but we should become a model for that. These two are tied. We can't become a model if we don't have a large applicant pool in the first place. And finally, we need to have a strong affiliates program. Right now, it's pretty strong. I think there's a lot more we can do with our industrial affiliates, and these affiliates, many of them bring a lot to us in terms of expertise, knowledge, and they also donate to our program. And we need to increase our donor base. We need more people giving money to the college. We do very poorly in that respect. And I think part of the reason is we haven't really had a habit of asking. So I'm going to talk about each of these in turn. But before I do that, let's just look at how we've grown in the past, because I'm talking about developing, not necessarily growing the college a great deal, but developing the college. So let's look at what's happened in the past. I apologize for the quality of this, but basically, this is a chart. Along the bottom is the year, and along the vertical axis is the number of the faculty. If you can't read all the names, it doesn't matter. It's just when people arrived and when they left. So there's ups and downs, and there's a few downs actually that are not mentioned. This only goes to 2019. But you can see over the years there was initial rapid growth, sort of flat period, and in the past decade we've been growing quite a bit as well. Now I'm going to superimpose on this an even worse graphic, but it's going to show you two measures of our productivity. One is the funding that we bring in. Maybe you could argue that's not really productivity, but nevertheless, it's a measure of how well we're doing, and the number of PhDs that we produce. And what you'll see is, although we have grown over these years, and I've tried to align these as best as possible. I don't have numbers all the way back. But what you'll see is that the funding actually, right now, is not an awful lot better than it was about 15 years ago. And things have got more expensive. Students have got more expensive, salaries have got more expensive. So in real dollars, this is actually less. Now, what you'll find for this year is you'll see a big increase, or a reasonably significant increase. But you know, that's just one data point. it doesn't mean that there's necessarily a strong trend. We need that trend to continue. If you look at the number of PhDs we produced, and I'll note that you see in 2019, 2018, there's only 6 PhDs that we produced. I'll point out that we do a lot of supervision of students in other programs. So in that year where we had 6, there was actually 6 students from other programs like physics, electrical engineering, material science, mechanical engineering, and so on. So there were other students there. But if you just look in IKM at the PhDs that we produced, it's again, not bad. These are actually, the last 2 years have been our best 2 years, but still, there's not this big growth that we have seen. And that's a little bit concerning to me, and something that we need to consider. And that's why I really set some of these metrics for how we want to grow in the future. It looks like we need more money, and it looks like we need more students. And if you look at this, well, why did I say have sufficient funding to support summer salaries? Well, that's the way it used to be. Faculty used to bring in their summer salaries as a matter of course. And now I find that quite a lot of faculty are happy to, well, maybe not happy, but nevertheless surviving by just living off their 9-month salary. I'd like to see faculty doing a little better than that, and really being encouraged to think about their 12-month salary as being the norm. If nothing else, it makes you hungrier. If you're used to living on your 12-month salary, you're going to be less likely to want to lose your funding. Plus 5 PhDs per year, or per faculty. That means we should graduate about 1 per year, which means if we have 30 faculty, we should be graduating about 30 PhD students. I think it's important that we do well in this area. The teaching load of faculty is not high in the college, and we should be able to graduate at about 30 PhDs per year. If you compare us to other programs are doing pretty well in this statistic. We're also doing well, but we should be doing better, in my opinion. And if you do the calculations, if a faculty on average needs to support that number of students and support the summer salary, then they're going to have other money to do the research, of course. It means that typically you're looking for about 500K per year. Now, it turns out this is currently about the average funding per faculty, but many faculty don't reach that target. The average is influenced heavily by some of the big earners in the college. So if we look at the recent funding distribution, you can see there's some people who are doing extremely well, and there's a very long tail of faculty here. Now, this is a bit mixed up because the data also shows in some research scientists that have small amounts of funding and so on. So these are not all faculty, but I'll point out that the highest earner in the college is not a faculty either, and the third highest earner is not a faculty. So just to normalize things here a little bit. So if you look about the average here, and if we say we need 500K per faculty as a sort of minimum, there's a lot of people that are well below that. If you count the actual faculty that are above this, there's about 10. Now, of course, not everybody is going to be equal. Some will have larger groups and some smaller, but I would like to see this whole curve sliding up a little bit and having more people capable of supporting decent-sized research groups. It's not something that is easy to do, I understand that, but it's something that we should really consider as a metric for junior faculty as they move forward. Are they able to support a significant number of students? It's very important to us as a college that we graduate PhDs. I just put, for comparison, I thought I like looking at the data a little bit. It's kind of interesting that if you look at our productivity in terms of journal publications, the curve is much less thresholdy. You know, you can see a much more even distribution. So that means there's quite a lot of faculty who are doing quite well in publishing, but maybe they don't have as much money. So it's just an interesting side comment. So the question is, I gave you some goals, and I'd like to say a little bit about why I think we should have these goals. Also say that this isn't the be all and end all. I'm not saying that if I become the permanent dean, that these will be the college goals, but these are my ideas. And what we need to do is go through a period of strategic planning where we set some goals. We've done some work in the past year to tweak our vision and mission statement. We didn't really change it very much. We included diversity in our mission, but that's about the only major change we did, other than tweaking some words and making sure lasers was in there as well as optics and photonics. But what we need to do is then say, well, if we want to be successful, what are our goals for the next few years? And these are some of my goals. So I'm going to take these one at a time and just say a little bit about it. I actually made some notes. I can't find them, but why be the leading producer of optics and photonics bachelor's degrees? Well, I think it's part of our mission. We are a leader in the field of photonics. There are very few programs that teach this. There's a lot of jobs. And as long as there's demand and we can get good students, which we can, we should continue to grow. So we're going through some growing pains at the moment. This year we graduated 25. If we increase much beyond that, we're going to have to tweak our labs, maybe stretch ourselves a little bit to teach more labs, teach bigger classes, maybe have more sections of classes. But these are the sort of natural growth pains that a program should have if it's being successful. And just think of the number of people that we're putting out into the industry, all of whom view Creel as their alma mater. And I think that's a very important thing, and we shouldn't minimize it. We want to be well known and have a big impact in our field. And by graduating bachelor's students, that's something that is very desirable, I think. Last year, we started an online program in the sense of we made it possible to complete the master's totally online. Now, what are we going to do about that? Well, I think, again, the same argument. We need to, there's many jobs in photonics. There's many people who are professionals in photonics that don't have master's degrees and could benefit from a master's degree. There's many of them are in companies who actually pay their tuition. But you know, we got Lockheed Martin in town that do some of that, but and we found recently with Lockheed Martin, if we make it easier for them to get classes, they will take them. Think about multiplying that to the many other companies, even just around the state, but also out of state, and think about the tuition that I could bring in, but also think about the recognition that that brings to us in the photonics industry. If we could be graduating, of course, Michael Georgopoulos was just giving the example of Georgia Tech and the online computer science program with 8,000 students. You know, we definitely are not going to look at that, but maybe 20 per year is too conservative. I don't know. We have to think about how we would do that, but I think most of us would agree if we could be graduating that many master's students, maybe more, all around the country, that would have a tremendous impact on us. And it would increase our recognition, increase possibilities for funding and collaboration with industry, just all around a good thing. Plus, we have a responsibility to educate people in photonics, and that's what we should do. I talked already about the sufficient funding to support summer salaries and support sufficient PhDs. I think that's an important goal, and it's something that all of our faculty should be looking at. And I understand that not everyone is in, if you're doing theory, maybe you don't need so much research support, but you still should be able to support your salary. You should still be able to support students, and they all cost money. It's part of the business that we do. It's easy for everybody to say, yeah, we should host our second major research center. It's tough to do, but we have to team to do these things. We really have to work together. We had some very good, before COVID hit, we had some very good discussions about how we're going to move forward. And many of the faculty have some very good ideas about how we can move forward. We really need to have some of these major research centers here. Now, of course, for all we know, next week we might find that we already have one in the form of Zhenggu Chang, who we know is a finalist for a Science and Technology Center. Well, if that's so, then great. But then we need to start going for others. MRSECs is something that we could do. We probably, if we could do a good MRSEC, we would involve people around campus. It wouldn't just be people in Creel. Same with an ERC. Possible an STC could be with others, could be within the college and its own. And what other kind of funding should we go for? I don't know. I just gave that. This is sort of NSF type funding. But maybe there are other major types of centers that we should be going for. And the good thing about that is it brings recognition, but it provides a lot of base funding that is very useful to have. But I'll talk a little bit later. We're not going to. It's not just going to happen by individual efforts. It needs to happen by concerted team efforts. Clean room facilities. I'm not going to say much more about that. We need to have this. If I think about any of the things we're going to propose for a major research center, it's most likely going to have a component that is going to require strong clean room facilities. Now, that requires the university to step up to some extent. But of course, we can do things by getting MRI grants, DURIP grants, and so on to help improve our clean room facilities as well. But ultimately, we need, if you think about a decade from now, we'd better have an outstanding clean room facility, or we're not going to be able to compete with other universities. It's important that we grow faculty in the area of underrepresented groups. At the moment, we have 10% are minorities, and we have one woman. The way we do that is by being deliberate about it and looking always for strong candidates. I mean, people worry about, gee, are we going to hire strong people? Yes, we are going to hire strong people, but we should hire strong people that are women or minorities. Not exclusively, but we make these hires one person at a time. When you make a hire, you don't hire 30% of a minority and 70% of a white male. You hire one at a time, and sometimes tough decisions have to be made. And I'll point out that when you're going for a major research center, if in your leadership you don't have women and minorities, you're going to have a reduced chance of success. And we know this to be true, and we really need to do much better in this. And if we want to reach the goals that we're seeking, this is an important part. It's not just an afterthought, not just a nice thing to do. It's something that's important to our success as a college. And the same thing will go with students. I'll talk about students later, but the same thing goes when you apply for, say, an IGERT program or an ERC. One of the things NSF wants to look at is your record in graduating women and minorities. So if we already don't have a good record, yeah, we can say things. Yeah, if we get this research center, we'll do much better. Yeah, you can say that. But if we don't have a good track record in the first place, we're less likely to get the funding. So we really need to build in many ways to get this major goal of having major funding. The next two I've put together. We know we need to have a large applicant pool. We've been talking about that. We had a retreat on this issue, and we had some good ideas, but we need to see this through and implement it. One of the difficulties, as I mentioned, is people don't know that optics exists, so we need to get the word out, and we need to be focused on that. Maybe we need to do much better in the state of Florida and in the southeastern US, because that's where it's easier to engage with people, easier to travel, have faculty go give talks, and it's easier to have students come to us. If they're in driving distance and can come see our program, if they see what's here, they may want to come. The other thing about recruiting underrepresented students and underrepresented faculty is when you don't have many, it becomes a challenge to recruit them, because they may think, well, this is maybe not the place for me. Maybe I don't fit in. Maybe I'm not going to be successful here. So we need to make a concerted effort to do better in this area and to change the way we look as a college, so that we do look more welcoming and inclusive, and so that we can recruit students who are underrepresented and faculty. But growing the applicant pool is something that it's got to be a major effort, and it's worth investing in. Particularly, we've relied for a long time on students from other countries, particularly, well, we used to get good students from Europe. That's disappeared. Recently, we've been having a lot of students from Iran and China, and that's not a particularly good situation to be in with the current political climate. So finally, we need a strong affiliates program. I think I've been working quite a lot on that and really trying to engage our affiliates, but not just engaging them from the point of view that they'll interview our students and come to affiliates day, but really interact with us. There's some very strong industries around us that have capabilities that we don't, and we really need to look at new ways to partner with industry to enhance our education program, to enhance our research, and it's also nice that the affiliates are a source of funding for us. They give the affiliates program is capable of giving us a fair bit of money that is free to use in any way. And the other thing is we need to grow our donor base. As I said, we haven't really been asking our alumni to give. If you think about some of our alumni, they're in, many of them are in very good positions. They've grown. There are many CTOs who are amongst our alumni. CTOs of major companies, and they could be capable of giving, but we got to make a good story as to why they should give to us. Obviously there's many needy causes that people can give the money to. We need to be one of them. So these are some goals. These are things that I think are important, but when we move forward, we need to think about, well, what other goals should faculty have? So some of these other goals supersede the goals that I've listed here. Probably. We need to discuss these. This could be a starting point for discussion, but we need a faculty buy-in if anything is going to work. So how are we going to get there? As I said, we need to agree on strategic goals. Once we've agreed on that, we need to build a strategic plan. So that means kind of going to, so we might have a goal for recruiting. We need to go to the recruiting committee and get them to flesh that out into a plan that actually works. And we need to be deliberate about these plans and set timelines and review to see, sometimes the timelines might not be realistic. Well, so be it, but we need to at least address that and check each year to see, do some assessment to see, are we meeting our plans? If not, why not? Can we do it better? Do we need to change the plans? But at least don't forget that we have these plans, and don't forget to look at how well we're doing that. And when we're making our plans, and just remind again, if we want to be the world's leader, we need to be true to our vision. And it isn't just in research, it's in education, innovation, and partnership, as well as in research. And if we want to be the world leading, our plans should be to become a world leader. Another thing that we talked about a lot, and I remember Eamon Aberradi mentioned quite a bit, he mentioned a particular department where he felt that the faculty weren't strong, but they've been extremely successful because they work as a team. And that's what we have to do, is we have to, we all want to do our own research and so on, but and many of us collaborate with each other, but we also have to think about, as we move forward, planning for big proposals, we have to think about teamwork. And if your idea isn't the one that rises to the top, and the college decides to pursue others, don't pick up your ball and go home, but work with us and try to do the best we can to make our college successful. Just another couple of points. We need to fill our endowed chairs positions in the next few years. We have a couple of empty positions. We should do that, and we should, through philanthropy goals, seek more. And of course, we have to market ourselves better. We did start to do marketing through the College of Sciences. I did say that early on that I wanted to have a marketing person, and we weren't able to do that, but we have worked successfully with the College of Sciences, and they've been doing a fairly good job of writing news stories and so on, and getting the word out. So when our faculty are successful, when our students are successful, we put that out. We're trying to then amplify that using social media, but the faculty need to do the same thing. I'll give you one example. One of our faculty who's actually become very good and very responsive when it comes to, you publish a good paper, you have a good result, let's get a news article out, is Eamon Aberradi. And he understands the value of that. I think we all need to understand the value of that and really try hard to, it's extra work, but if you get a strong paper coming out in a high impact journal, if you have a major new research grant, let me know, or let the College of Sciences people know that this is a newsworthy item. And then when they contact you to write the news article, answer them. It's as simple as that. But if we do things like that, we get the word out. People see Creole more clearly. They know that, gee, Creole's a place where things are going on. We know things are going on, but other people don't. And we really need to do better in that respect. In growing, we need to create an atmosphere that is inclusive. I started an inclusion and diversity committee, and Kathleen Richardson is getting that started. And I don't know what's involved in doing that. That's why we need a group of people to work on this and tell me, what do we need to do to change the college to help us attract the highest quality female and minority faculty and students. It's very important that we do it. It's not just all about giving a good salary and a good startup package. We need to be a place that people want to come to, and where people feel that they will be successful in their careers. We also need to hold junior faculty to high standards. I think we've been doing that, but we need to help them to achieve these standards. So better mentorship, I think, is something that we need to do. And I said we would do this. We probably haven't done as much as we could, but it's been a little bit difficult with COVID and so on. But we really need to work hard to be sure that faculty, if faculty are writing proposals, maybe we should look at the proposals, give them feedback before they send them off. There are some groups around campus. Saiful Kondaker is doing a good job of doing this for career proposals, but maybe it's not just career proposals, it's all sorts of proposals. And also we need to help faculty make contacts with people in the DoD or NSF and so on, because talking to program managers before you submit proposals is a very important thing to do. I also think, we have an industrial advisory board. It was our undergraduate board, and it's now become that board, and they're very useful. But maybe we also need to, on the other side, have an international scientific advisory committee. I actually got this idea from ICFO. Just get a group of people together, some of the absolute top leaders in our field who are scientists, and have them give a presentation, tell them what we're doing, and ask for their advice. Of course, we're asking for their advice, and of course we should heed it. But the other thing we're marketing the program. We're letting these people know, gee, Creole is a great place. There's good things going on, and we're looking for outstanding people to join us. And so a scientific advisory committee would be complementary to an industrial advisory board. It wouldn't be instead of. Another thing we have to do better is learn the strengths of our colleagues across campus. I'll be honest with you, there's physics, electrical engineering, material science, and so on have grown so much in the past few years. There's some very strong faculty in those programs. We don't know exactly what they do. If we want to be ready to team up for opportunities, we need to do better in learning what they do. So as Dean, I need to do a better job of getting the word out, having sort of joint seminars and colloquium. I've mentioned this a few times. What Michael Georgopoulos has done in engineering has been very useful in that respect. Just having very short talks, enough to know what people are doing, not to get into the nitty-gritty of it. But we need to learn better what people are doing, because we can't team with people if we don't know that they exist. And we also need to think about maybe some niche joint academic programs for students. Maybe we need to work better jointly with materials, for example, because some of our faculty need students with expertise in materials. And so rather than having them just be in the material science and engineering program, why not have them do some sort of joint program that involves both departments? And again, seeking industry partners in education as well as research. You know that I've been trying to do a partnership with FICONTech. Some of you are aware of that. That's the sort of thing where we get industry in helping us with the research, but also training our students on state-of-the-art equipment. This is an important thing to do. I've also been talking to Facebook and some other companies about doing design projects, not senior design projects, but more fixed type of or closed type of design that would involve expertise in industry helping our students. A lot of things that industry could do to help us, and sometimes they just are waiting to be asked. So again, we want to be the world leader, and I emphasize the world leader. If we say it, if we want to change our mission, our vision to not be the leader, then so be it. But if we've set this as a vision, then we ought to try to live it out. And if we truly mean it, we should be doing world-leading things as a college. We're already doing world-leading things as researchers. Many of our research are truly world leaders. But if we want to do it as a college, we need to do something a little bit different. We have to work as a team to do these things. And finally, I just say that these are my ideas about a vision for the college. What we need to do in the next few months is look at some of these ideas, look at other people's ideas, distill down and create a strategic plan that we can embrace. So that's all I have to say. As I say, it's very hard to have a vision talk because a vision could mean so many different things. You see, most of what I'm talking about is incremental rather than or evolutionary rather than revolutionary, but these are some of the things that I think we need to do to move forward. So if anyone has questions or comments, additional ideas, I'd be very happy to hear from you now.
Thank you very much, Dave. We can certainly open the floor for questions. And perhaps maybe while people are thinking of questions, maybe I'll start with one. Dave, you showed a beautiful chart of sort of highlighting the activity of Creole and the growth of faculty members, but more or less steady state in terms of funding, etc. Do you think part of that might be due to the challenge of trying to balance the added load of the undergraduate degree program, and that perhaps taking a little additional time? I mean, again, I'm just going to throw that out there. I think we all recognize teaching the undergrads is a little more challenging than the grad students, at least from my perspective. But your thoughts?
Well, I'd like to hear other people's thoughts on that. My initial thought is our teaching load hasn't changed. So as we've grown, we've had more people available to teach. We've had more things to teach. We've actually reduced our teaching a little bit at the graduate level. Just with the offerings are a little bit less. We don't teach the core in the PhD program 2 times a year. We teach it 1 time a year, so that means bigger classes. So yeah, there's a little bit. There's a little bit more. Maybe the teaching load hasn't changed, but the number of students per class has changed. But you know, this is a good question. I mean, nothing's for free. That's for sure. So, but my question, maybe I could fire back to you, Peter, is do you feel that your teaching load has increased because of the undergraduate program?
Well, I mean, I see Kathleen has her hand raised. We'll get to her question in a moment, but I'll just respond to your question there. There is a little bit of additional overhead, you know, doing things related towards ABET, et cetera. The undergrads require more nurturing and care to some small degree. So there is a tad bit more in that respect. But I will agree that the effective nominal load hasn't increased in terms of classes, but perhaps the overhead and nurturing and care that's required to get the undergrads through certainly is more than an advanced graduate class, who folks tend to be a little more mature. Okay, I see Kathleen is there with the hand up. Professor Richardson, unmute, please. There we go.
Thanks, Peter. Dave, not to drill down too much on kind of the high level vision statements, but I think many of us agree with some of the key aspects of, if you want to be a world leader, you got to lead and you got to be the best in all things. And with that of quality research and a quality team, you will attract high quality faculty and high quality students that perhaps will know more about what this entity offers. I found, and I've been thinking about it in a slightly different way recently, but I found your chart that you used to illustrate the division between above 500K and below 500K useful. And it wasn't for the monetary breakdown, but I would say to our colleagues, of the 12 researchers or so who were in the left-hand portion of that graph, I would venture to say, and I may be off by a few, but I would venture to say that a majority and a little bit more than 50% are probably above the age of 60. I am. And I would like to know specifically, you mentioned 10 years. It's a good point for vision, but you've been here for a year in this interim position. What do you see now as a key strategy for the college to not only retain, but to grow the existing competencies that we have that differentiate our college and university? And I'm not going to just say in the state of Florida, I'm going to say in the world. And I use this because if any of you have listened to the Board of Trustees meeting in the last day or so, you got to have a vision to retain that competency and grow that competency. And as President Cartwright says, vision without resources is hallucination. I like that phrase. So I think not only do we have to have a commitment as a college to do that, but we also have to have a strategy on how we're going to pay to do that, and defining how we're going to retain those resources that we have and the competencies that go with those resources, and resources with competencies going forward. Because in the next 5 to 10 years, a good number of those perhaps left-hand researchers in your plot are going to retire or transition.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Kathleen. That is a very good point, and it's very true. It's something that we've been talking a little bit about, at least in the executive committee, because you're absolutely right. Not all, but many of the highly productive faculty are at an age where they may consider retiring in the next decade. There's a good chance that some of them will, and maybe some of them won't, but nevertheless, that's something that we need to address. So, of course, we need to nurture junior faculty, and hopefully those junior faculty will come up through. But as we replace senior faculty, and if we make new hires in the future, for example, as I mentioned, we do have a couple of chairs that are unfilled. It's not clear that we have all the resources that we need to hire people in chair positions with the adequate startup that will be needed as well. So I may have to go begging for that. If we find good enough people, I think we may get some traction in the academic affairs, and Office of Research might be willing to help us with that. The other thing is, by the way, we're going through a new model for funding. I've mentioned this a little bit, mostly to the executive committee, not so much to the faculty, but the university is changing its funding model. It's designed to make the colleges more entrepreneurial, to try to find methods to reduce costs but raise revenues. Part of that will be to funnel more overhead back into the college. And it's going to also encourage us to do better with tuition. The more research we bring in, that doesn't really bring in any more funding to the college. That's just funding to do research. And in fact, some senses, more research may cost the college a little bit. But back to the question, as we hire new people, I definitely think we need to hire chairs. We also need to think about, do we hire junior versus mid-career faculty? In the past, we've been pretty successful at hiring people in that sort of mid-career category. They're known quantities, they're somewhat more known quantities than junior faculty, but of course they're more expensive to hire. They're going to need large startup packages, they're going to need large salaries, but you also know that there's a very high probability that they're going to bring in more research funds. So, but that doesn't mean you're going to completely eliminate junior faculty. So we need to get a little bit more careful about how we hire junior faculty as well. These are debates that we have to have within the college, but I think a lot of times these abstract debates become less abstract when we actually have candidates. So many times I think when we want to hire into a position, we can leave it open as to whether it's for a junior or a senior faculty, and make a decision based on who we hire. So, but it's a very good point, Kathleen, and something maybe I should have put that into the presentation, because the age of the faculty is something that is important. There's a lot of people who've been here for a very long time and they've been very successful. What happens next is very dependent on how we replace those faculty.
Very good, thank you. We've got 2 more questions on board, one from MJ regarding marketing, and then we'll take the question from Mary Lou after MJ.
Okay, about marketing, Dave, you and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, I guess. My experience with marketing and its prejudice of having spent 17 years in the Temple of All Wisdom is that we have a big marketing staff now at UCF. For the whole university now, College of Science has a marketing person, and they go to marketing schools where they learn primarily how to get your brand of soap to sell better than somebody else's brand, when everything is the same about it other than the color of the box. It's just surfactant with a little perfume in it. All soaps are the same. And they know how to do that. And they do it probably very well because companies make a lot of money with them. I'm not sure that our efforts and press releases and all of that, who reads them? How does that get to the students we want to recruit? How does that get to the underrepresented faculty we'd like to bring here? I don't think we've figured out yet who are we supposed to be marketing to, and how do we market to the target audience that we have decided is our target audience for our marketing. Do we, I'll just use one example. I hear from a friend that's now at a Ivy League college, that's a graduate of one of our underrepresented schools, Jones High School. This is Jim Gates. Some of you know Jim. Jones High School has over 200 physics majors. Have we done anything to recruit students from Jones High School? I mean, do they read the Orlando Sentinel releases that get on page whatever it is that are there? I doubt it. Do they read the press releases that come out of the university? I doubt it. So I think we need to give a lot more thought. And I'm not the expert to give us that. I'm just an expert to saying I've seen a lot of things that we do, a lot of money we spend that makes us feel a little bit better for a day or so when we look at the beautiful marketing piece. It's not clear that anybody else cares. You know, when you think about one of the innovations at Creel, we have a recycling box right by our mailboxes. So I know what I do is I take stuff out of the mailbox and put it in any marketing material and put it directly into the recycle thing, never opening any envelope. Anyway, this is the question or issue that I think I'd like to see us
Well,
think about.
it's a good point. I mean, yeah, I mean, the news and marketing people that we've been using the College of Sciences are pretty good, and they don't pretend to know about photonics. So they need input from us. So what happens when there's some news item, they'll interview us and try to ask questions and try to write a story about that, and then ask whoever it was they interviewed to review this. Does this capture the essence of the piece? And if not, change it. But yeah, there's a good question. What do you do after that? Because we have a news section on our website. So how many people go and look at our news section? I try to encourage the faculty to get in the habit of looking at it so they can at least see what's going on. But who else is going to come and look at that? So they don't. So then the next thing you got to do, and I've been kind of learning this as I go, is you got to post that. So you take that news article and you post it on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is better for the students. We haven't quite got to doing Twitter yet, but you gotta put that out there. You gotta tag the people that you want to read it. You mentioned this thing about Jones High School. It sounds like somewhere we should really try to recruit. I didn't know about that, but if you know who's involved in these programs, you gotta make sure you get them on your social media and you tag them with the news stories, and maybe they'll repost it and the students will see it. You know, there's a whole sort of viral thing that can go on there with putting the news out, but it has to be relevant as well. One of the problems we have is a lot of the research we do is we know is great research. We do the next best thing in topological photonics, but students don't want to really read about that. They want to know about the impact that that's going to have on our lives. So, and sometimes that's a bit of a stretch. But if you read what people put out there, they are usually stretches. You know, there's other things like some of the work that say Didi is doing in blood sensing. That's got a real impact. Those kind of stories people can really relate to. If you've got a new technique that saves lives in pediatric cardiac surgery, you know, that can make news, and that's something that we can get out there. But a lot of the things we do don't make so much news. But you know, talking about some of the work that Peter or Guifang and so on do in terms of high bandwidth communications, you got to pitch that in. Gee, they're contributing to the communication in the internet in the COVID age, or what was it? One of Guifang's students said that she helps to make people be able to watch more Netflix. Well, that's actually important to people, and I don't think people know that that's got anything to do with fiber optics. I don't think they know when they make a phone call or they do a Google search on the phone that the fiber optic network has got anything to do with that. And maybe we need to do some marketing in that sense, so that students understand the relevance of some of the work that we're doing. It's tough, and I'm not a marketing person either, and I'm not a kid, so I don't know what what really excites kids, but we need to work at it. And it's not something to just say it's too difficult to do and it's no good and just ignore it. We need to try to do it and try to do it better.
Yeah. I'm looking at the clock. I know it's getting close. I would like Mary Lou to give her a chance to ask her questions. Go ahead, Mary. You've got
Hi,
the
Mary
floor.
Lou.
Thanks. Yeah, as a fellow dean, I just wanted to, say thank you for your sharing your vision and goals. And I do have another meeting I need to run to, but I did want to emphasize the same thing you said, the importance of marketing and communication. There are people trained out there, and without your own, it's really tough. And, we have an N of 1 only in a small college as well, and we need an N of 3. But trying to look at all the different goals of marketing, whether it's recruitment, whether it's retention, it's sharing your stories with the community. But this past year, I will say, for an example, we saw a huge effort with media requests, we saw a jump in our rankings with US News. So all of those things are really important, and it's hard to do it on your own. And you can tell faculty to get it out, but then they're sending things that may or may not be what you're hoping to be getting your word out. So I just wanted to do that. And I have to jump off for another meeting. I just also want to share also opportunities for collaboration across colleges. I know you do a lot with sciences, engineering, but don't forget about the health professions and the Evolving Academic Health Sciences Center. So I'm going to leave and I don't need an answer, just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Okay, that's a
Thanks,
good
Mary.
point. Thanks very much, Mary.
All right, it's basically, I think our time is done, so we are officially done with the vision talk. However, we're slowly transitioning into the open forum with the faculty. So I will defer to Dean Georgiopoulos to determine whether that open forum of faculty includes staff and outside people, or is it just faculty, etc.
Peter, this is only faculty from CREO, so we
Okay,
make sure that the people who stay on for the next hour or so are CREO faculty.
But
This
if anyone
concludes
else
the
has a question
recording.
right now, then they could ask. Yeah.